Once upon a time, there was a little boy named Oliver who was afraid of the dark. He was also afraid of the monsters that he imagined lived under his bed. Every night, Oliver would beg his parents to leave the light on in his room, but they always told him that he needed to learn to sleep in the dark. One night, Oliver had a particularly terrifying nightmare. In his dream, he was being chased by a group of monsters through a dark forest. The monsters were all different shapes and sizes, and they had sharp teeth and claws. Oliver ran as fast as he could, but the monsters were always gaining on him. Finally, Oliver tripped and fell. The monsters closed in on him, and he was so scared that he woke up screaming. Oliver's parents came running into his room, and they held him close until he calmed down. "It was just a dream, Oliver," said his mother. "There are no monsters under your bed." But Oliver wasn't so sure. He was still scared, and he didn't want to go back to sleep. Oliver's parents tried everything to help him overcome his fear of the dark and the monsters under his bed. They bought him a nightlight, they read him stories about brave children who faced their fears, and they even let him sleep in their bed. But nothing seemed to work. One night, Oliver's parents had to go out of town for the evening. Oliver's grandmother came to stay with him, but he was still too scared to sleep in his own bed. So, he slept in his grandmother's bed. Oliver's grandmother was a very kind and loving woman. She told Oliver stories about her childhood, and she sang him lullabies. Oliver felt safe and loved in his grandmother's bed, and he soon fell asleep. In the middle of the night, Oliver woke up to a strange noise. He opened his eyes and saw a dark shadow moving across the room. Oliver's heart started to race. He was sure that it was one of the monsters from his nightmare. Oliver pulled the covers over his head and squeezed his eyes shut. He was so scared that he could barely breathe. But then, he remembered something that his grandmother had told him. "If you ever see a monster," she had said, "just close your eyes and imagine it disappearing." Oliver closed his eyes and imagined the monster disappearing. He imagined it getting smaller and smaller until it was no bigger than a speck of dust. Then, he imagined the speck of dust floating away and disappearing into the air. When Oliver opened his eyes again, the monster was gone. Oliver took a deep breath and let it out slowly. He was no longer afraid. Oliver knew that the monster wasn't real. It was just a figment of his imagination. But he also knew that he had faced his fear, and he had conquered it. Oliver fell back asleep, and he slept soundly all night long. When he woke up the next morning, he felt happy and confident. He knew that he could face anything that came his way, even the monsters under his bed.